Let's lock in. If you've been following me, you know that I've stated Turki Alalshikh is looking to start a boxing league, and how Riyadh season is basically a boxing league without the official title. Well, now there's actual evidence to support what I've been saying. We're going to take a look at this evidence. First, we're going to take a look at a tweet from Boxing Kingdom, and it states, "Big news: Saudi Arabia is in advanced discussions to create a new boxing league with Dana White and TKO Group Holdings," and the source is the New York Times. Now we're going to take a look at the article from the New York Times, and I'm just going to review enough of it so that you can understand what it is. If you really want to review this article in its entirety, you should go to the New York Times. The article is titled, "Saudi Arabia Already Pumping Money into Boxing, May Start League with TKO." And it states, "A company owned by the country's sovereign wealth fund is poised to team up with TKO, which owns Ultimate Fighting Championship, the kingdom's latest foray into pro sports." Now, if you're not familiar with what's been happening in Saudi Arabia, they have been throwing money into various sports. For example, they have I think it's called Top Golf, where they have the best golfers in the world go there to put on shows, and they compete uh, in Saudi Arabia. They also have a tournament with the best tennis players in the world go to Saudi Arabia to compete for prize money, and it's a hefty prize, right? They also have a soccer league in Saudi Arabia where some of the best players in the world are contracted to play for the soccer league in Saudi Arabia. And now Saudi Arabia is putting its thumb on the sport of boxing and looking to start a boxing league. And you see that they're looking to do it with TKO Group Holdings, which also works with UFC. Now, I'm going to show you one more thing to support this, and then I will give you my take on things. Here's a tweet from Ring Magazine, which is owned by Turki Alalshikh, and this tweet is quoting Turki Alalshikh. Quote, "We must now have it be normal to lose some fights in boxing. All the fighters want similar to the career of Floyd Mayweather, 0 losses. This can happen one time every 50, 60, 70 years. We need like the UFC model now, where the champions are losing and winning. Muhammad Ali lost 5 times and he's still the legend." Close quote. And that comment was made on Fracture on Boxing, where Turki Alalshikh also revealed that Joe Calzaghe an offer to come back and fight Carl Froch. He accepted it, and then the next day he rejected it. But anyways, getting back to this, the Riyadh season is basically already a boxing league, like I've been pointing out to you. And I've been stating that Turki Alalshikh really needs 3 fighters to legitimize his league, to the point where if he created the league, it would give the impression that the best fighters in the world fight for Turki Alalshikh. The 3 fighters that he didn't have already that I believe that he needed was Naoya Inoue. I should say Naoya Inoue, Canelo Alvarez, and Gervonta Tank Davis. Since we've been having these discussions, he has now signed Naoya Inoue, and he's been taking the pictures and basically implying or hinting towards, or a bit of foreshadowing, that he has signed Canelo Alvarez too. We would have to wait to see that, which would only leave Gervonta Tank Davis. Gervonta Tank Davis recently posted on social media saying he'd fight Ryan Garcia in a rematch for $150 million. He already beat Ryan Garcia, but I'm telling you, that was directed at Turki Alalshikh. The same way I was telling people that when Canelo said he'd fight David Benavidez for $200 million and everyone was saying he was ducking, I was saying, no, he's naming his price to the person who's been throwing money into sports, not just boxing, the person who's been throwing money into golf, tennis, soccer, or football, as you call it in the UK. In America, football is a different sport. But the point is, he was naming his price. Now Gervonta Davis is out here naming his price after he sees what's going on. The point is, it was always evident that Turki Alalshikh was going to try to create a boxing league. Based on what I've seen, I think he's been doing a good job. He's been putting on massive cards like the one that's taking place on February 22nd. And people are excited. They love the events. You saw at the Ring Magazine Awards, everyone was respectful. He had guys in the room who had tension with each other, but they kept it professional. And you love to see that. My only issue with it is that it would be ran by Dana White. Is it because he's doing it with TK Holdings, what TKO Group Holdings, and they own UFC? But just because they own UFC, it doesn't mean that Dana White needs to be at the head. I don't necessarily agree with the Dana White business model, and I don't think that the Dana White strategy would work in boxing. And what Turkey's saying, we need to make it so that one loss doesn't ruin a career. I agree with that because styles make fights. You have guys who would lose to guys and then beat guys. Like I'll give you Joe Joyce sparked out Joseph Parker, G.I. Jane sparked out Joe Joyce, and then Joseph Parker beat G.I. Jane. That's what happens when the best fight the best. You never know who's going to win. Styles make fights. The thing is, at the pro level, the margin of error is so small because if you make a mistake, most pros have the ability to make you pay. And that is why it's very hard to go undefeated throughout your entire career. You can be a magnificent fighter, but you make a mistake on the wrong night, your opponent will be capable of capitalizing on that mistake. And so that's why you see these upsets, these massive upsets sometimes. Like you saw upset of the year from Ring Magazine is the guy who sparked out Jaime Munguia. Only had 4 knockouts going into the fight, but Munguia made a mistake and he paid for it. That's what happens at the pro level. That's what separates the pro level from the amateur level and everywhere else. Now, to me, I've always stated it's not the fact that you lose, it's how you lose. You look at a guy like Derek Ward Chisora, he has 9, 10, multiple losses, but it doesn't matter because every time he steps in the ring, he's going to give it his all. You know it's going to be a fire fight, and you know that Chisora, he's going to keep coming or you have to put him down. And Chisora fights are interesting. I also pointed out how Arturo Nagati and Mickey Ward had their trilogy. No one would have mistaken them for the best fighters in the game. But what they were 2 guys who went in there, gave it their all, and the fights were very entertaining. And they created this narrative and this trilogy that the world became interested in. Once you get invested into it, it doesn't necessarily need to be the 2 best fighters in the world. I pointed that out. Jake Paul versus Iron Mike Tyson didn't involve 2 of the best fighters in the world. It simply involved 2 people that we care about, and we wanted to see the outcome of the fight. That sometimes is more important than who's the more skilled or who's the more technical fighter, because sometimes the highly skilled fighter isn't the most entertaining fighter. Take Shakur Stevenson, for example. Even before people were bashing Shakur as badly as they are right now, I would fall asleep on Shakur fights. And this isn't to diss Shakur because I love skill. I'm a fan of skill. I think Shakur's skill wouldn't be criticized as much if he was doing it to fighters on the level of, say, Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Tank Davis. If he shuts them out the way he's been shutting out the guys we've been watching him shut out, no one would be dissing him because he would be shutting out the best. But Shakur, once you get to the 5th round, the 6th round, the 7th round, and he's won all 7 rounds and he's still doing the same thing, the only thing left to see him do is try to go for the knockout. And once it's evident he's not trying to go for the knockout, you naturally lose interest in the fight. And that's what makes Shakur Stevenson, quote unquote, boring to the masses. But he's a magnificent fighter, highly skilled fighter. Whereas you take some guys who may not be as skilled, but they're going to go forward, they're going to slug it out, and someone's going to get knocked out, people are going to choose to see that fight. And you can't get mad and be like, oh, that's because people don't understand the sweet science, blah, blah, blah. Nah, see, boxing's still entertainment at the end of the day. It's still entertainment. And that's why Shakur's promising to be more electrifying in 2025, Well, I just hope that means that once he's up 5, 6, 7 rounds, he's going to take more risk for the knockout. If he does that, then that will help his brand. Now, in terms of losing, how you lose, and I don't think a loss ends your career. Look at Anthony Joshua has lost, but he's fought the best. He's fought the best. He's beaten some. He's lost to some. But what it's done is it's made people care about Anthony Joshua. If Anthony Joshua is going to fight, you want to watch Anthony Joshua fight because yes, he has vulnerabilities, but he also has the ability to put you out too. That's what makes Joshua entertaining television. Is Joshua going to spark someone out, or is Joshua going to get sparked out? We'll watch it. We want to know. That's what makes him entertaining. Tyson Fury, yes, he has flaws, but he's also a very talented heavyweight. Is Tyson Fury going to outbox you? Is he going to, Tyson, believe it or not, he might spark you out too. Is Tyson going to spark you out? Is Tyson going to, you want to see what Tyson Fury's going to do. So he's interesting. You want to watch Tyson Fury. These two guys are coming off losses. Doesn't make them a bum. Doesn't make them a scrub. Tyson Fury had 2 competitive fights with the best heavyweight on the planet. So did Anthony Joshua, right? You can't write them off. Daniel Dubois sparked out Anthony Joshua, but Daniel Dubois was competitive with Usyk too. So this is, again, what I'm talking about. Well, he was competitive until he wasn't. Again, Usyk's number one. He did a job on all of them. The point I'm making is just because Usyk did a job on him doesn't mean that everybody else can do a job on them. Doesn't mean that they're scrubs. Doesn't mean that they don't deserve the big fights. Again, it's not the fact that you lose. It's how you lose. Look at Anthony Joshua. He went out on the Shield. Nobody was really clowning him like that. We saw like, yo, this dude really put on. And I actually think that helped AJ because I think for a long time, the way he went out to Daniel Dubois, he feared because he thought the backlash was going to be worse than it actually was. I think he went out, he got sparked out, and he was like, oh, I didn't receive the vitriol I thought I was going to get. I didn't receive the backlash I thought I was going to get. In fact, some people are showing me love. Some people are calling me courageous. Some people are actually saying they want to see me fight again still because that's the diehard boxing fan. These guys, these casuals who feel like you have to have a 0 in order to be marketable, these guys who feel like they're not, who forget them. Because those are the type of guys who are telling you, I'm going to hop on another bandwagon once you lose. Those are the guys who are telling you, like, I'm only a part of your camp because you're winning. Once you start losing or taking L's, I'm going to start rolling with the next guy. You don't want to be around those people anyway. That's why it never should be a thing for you to take the tough fights, the best fights, the biggest fights to get the bag. So I don't think you need Dana White to create that narrative in boxing. I just think the more the best fight the best, the more you'll start to see that in the sport of boxing. So in closing, I have no problem with Turki Alalshikh starting a boxing league because I feel like he already has a boxing league. Riyadh Season is basically a boxing league. But I don't think it needs to become like boxing's version of UFC. I mean, of UFC. I do believe that boxing has its own unique attributes. The promoters bring certain things to the game. What they do, everything. I think boxing needs to remain boxing. Now, if TKO Group Holdings wants to get involved just because they want to try to make some profits or whatever, then that's cool, but let boxing be boxing. Keep boxing. Boxing is thriving right now, and it's starting to get exposure right now. And you don't want to mess with that by trying to make it like the UFC. Let boxing be boxing. Let the UFC be UFC. And quite frankly, I don't think we need Dana White as the chief mouthpiece for boxing. Like, I never thought I'd say this, but as someone who's, and not that I don't like him, it's not that I dislike him, but it's just I think he's a used car salesman, a snake oil salesman. But I'd rather see Eddie Hearn in that slot than Dana White because I know that boxing is at least going to be Eddie Hearn's love. Dana White, he's always going to have that bias towards UFC. And he's always gonna, it's kind of like I just don't want Dana White in that position. I'm being honest. I want someone to be like the chief honcho or someone who's in a position to have an impact on boxing, who I know loves boxing first. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe. It's Caden. I'm out. Peace.